This is a story about Malcolm and the moon beings. The morning sun filtered down through the leaves as the small creatures who nestled in the trees and hollows began their respective days. Malcolm had just completed a retreat with worship leaders and was out taking a walk. He hummed one of the songs they had closed with, and everything around him, the earth, the sky, even the air itself, felt united in praise. As he turned back towards the farmhouse, Malcolm wondered if perhaps one day he would take part in a real interstellar worship service. It was as he was pondering this thought that he heard a soft cry. Malcolm looked about and realized the cry had come from the grass nearby. Kneeling down, he noticed a small rock in a place where there were no rocks. Suddenly, the rock opened an eye, and a teardrop began to fall. As Malcolm watched in surprise, the eye blinked sadly, and another drop fell. Malcolm hated to see anything suffer. He listened as a strange being explained that her name was Luna, and she was one of the moon people. Her people, Luna explained, lived under the moon's surface in an underground world of beauty, peace, and unity. The moon people worshiped God, and they loved worship music. In fact, Luna and her friends had come to Earth in order to hear the humans at Hideaway Farm. But she had gotten so caught up in listening as they talked and sang late into the night, and she had lost track of time. Her spaceship, because of a critical launch window, had been forced to take off without her. And now, Luna said with a sob, she was stranded on Earth. Malcolm was determined to help Luna get back home. But first he decided that he needed to take her to a safe place. As he held Luna's slight weight in his hand and carried her back to the farmhouse, a unique friendship was begun. Now Malcolm's dream to help Luna return to the moon was not nearly as impossible as you might think. This was because he had some inventor friends who had built a spaceship, and Malcolm had already planned to take 20 talented songwriters on a trip to Earth's nearest neighbor. The necessary preparations had already been taken, and in 30 days the spaceship was scheduled to blast off for the moon. Only now it would have one extra passenger, Luna. Finally, the day of departure arrived. Luna was so excited she had barely slept. She was grateful to Malcolm but missed her family and friends. Malcolm was just as excited. With Luna comfortably curled up in an inner pocket of his jacket, they boarded the ship. After a short countdown, the ship lifted off. They were on their way to the moon. The trip was smooth and dreamlike. Together, Malcolm and Luna watched as the Earth grew smaller and the moon grew larger. After a 6-hour supersonic trip and a gentle touchdown, they arrived. As the other travelers marveled that they were standing on the moon, Malcolm was amazed by the fact that in his pocket he carried a precious moon person. While the others were retrieving their luggage and musical instruments from the baggage area, Luna indicated to Malcolm to walk towards a large boulder. While everyone else was busy, Luna pressed a spot on a huge stone. Silently, the boulder opened and revealed an opening into the moon's surface. Luna held Malcolm's hand, and together they jumped. Any fears Malcolm had soon vanished as they gently floated down into an amazing world. They passed floating gardens with cascading waterfalls and strange, beautiful birds that glided by on giant wings. It was an enchanted world teeming with life, and Malcolm immediately felt a peace that seemed to come from everywhere. When they finally reached the bottom, Malcolm carefully set Luna down. She was finally back on her native soil. Luna showed Malcolm a large screen and explained that here moon people could observe important events on Earth. Often they saw sad news, sickness, hunger, war, and pollution. But Luna added, and her face brightened, they also were able to listen to beautiful Earth music. Then the moon people escorted Malcolm onto their floating stage and asked him to sing. "Help me, Lord," he prayed silently. Then he remembered that they liked Earth music and knew he would be okay. The moon people were overjoyed to hear songs coming from a heart of love. As Malcolm ended with, "How great thou art," a choir of moon people joined in. God's pleasure seemed to fill the whole universe. Next, Luna took him inside an official-looking building and down a series of corridors to a room labeled Probe Alert. Inside, Malcolm saw lunar officials at a large desk monitoring a gigantic screen. Luna explained that when the moon people wished to enjoy an outing on the lunar surface, they wore special wristbands. Anytime an Earth probe was sighted, their devices would vibrate, signaling them to camouflage themselves and escape detection. "We don't want to be discovered by Earth people," Luna explained. "In fact, tourism from your world is one of our greatest fears. We've seen the wounded Earth and want to protect our Eden from what happened to yours." Luna showed Malcolm another bank of screens. "These are used to monitor our space lanes," she explained. Malcolm asked her about strange meatball-looking craft. Luna laughed at his choice of words. "That craft performs a very important function. It's a camouflaged trash collector. It picks up trash that Earthlings throw out into space, the same way they throw trash into the streets, lakes, and oceans on Earth. Garbage collectors act at great risk and are considered heroes by our people," Luna continued. "Once we have plucked the trash out of space, we transport it to the closest black hole and drop it in. The space litter remains visible but never returns, a reminder of what could happen to the moon if we are not vigilant." Malcolm asked Luna if the moon people had what humans called UFOs. She smiled and motioned for him to come to a window overlooking the city. Hovering in clear sight were 3 classic UFO-style spaceships. "What you call UFOs are actually our cleaning expeditions to Earth," said Luna. "Their pilots are also considered heroes for the same reasons as the garbage collectors. My brother is a pilot on one of the ultra-fast vacuums that suck out contamination from your atmosphere." Life here on the moon was so wonderful, and the efforts the moon people went to in order to safeguard it were amazing. It shamed him to think they had to spend so much energy to protect their world, because his people were not only polluting the Earth, but beyond it as well. Deep in thought, they left the building and walked until they came to the base of an underground mountain. There, Luna stopped at a garden where statuary stood surrounded by lush greenery and vivid blue flowers. Nearby, Malcolm saw a magnificent tree laden with strange green fruit. Luna plucked a piece. "Eat," she said kindly. Malcolm took the fruit and examined it. As she saw the consternation on his face, Luna laughed. "It's not so hard to eat as you would imagine. Just press lightly on one of the purple seeds." Malcolm did so and was amazed when a section of the skin slid right off, allowing him to take a tentative bite. It was so delicious he proceeded to eat the rest and felt satisfied, but not overly full. As Luna led Malcolm to a monument, he stared at the flat, fragmented slabs in amazement. "A long time ago, when Moses broke the tablets on Mount Sinai, we sent one of our stealth cruisers to gather the pieces. The words written on these tablets form the basis of the laws that govern our lives," Luna explained. "Does no one ever disobey?" Malcolm asked, thinking back to what had happened in his own world. Luna smiled. "We are all tempted, especially by pride. But whenever one of us begins to think they are better than the rest, they go to the moon's surface where they are faced with God's vast creation. While there, they write a thank you song to Jesus. We think God likes it when we write him love notes put to music." Malcolm agreed. He too believed that God enjoyed his people best when they worshipped him. Malcolm and Luna left the garden and approached a portion of the path where hundreds of moon people were gathered. Each one had a hand on a neighbor's shoulder, and they all were singing the same gentle song together. Luna paused. "When pain enters our hearts," she explained, "moon beings share it by touching each other. We reach out in love and in song. We cannot remove the pain, but by sharing it, we are able to ease the suffering and become one. Do you not have this experience with your own kind?" "Only rarely," Malcolm answered, "and never this complete." My people take the time to listen with our eyes and see with our hearts. You could do this on earth, but it would take courage. Courage? Malcolm wondered. It takes great courage to truly open your heart to someone. The more different they are, the more courage is needed, but also the greater the reward. Malcolm had not realized his eyes were closed. As he opened them and brushed away a tear, he knew the time had come to leave the lunar paradise of the Moon People and to reunite with the other songwriters and then return to Earth. Malcolm explained his need to reunite with the others, and Luna led him on the return path back through the gardens to the Moon People's city. Once there, Malcolm retrieved his spacesuit and helmet. Then together they headed back towards the surface. The time had come to say goodbye. Malcolm thanked Luna for all she had shared and promised he would safeguard her people's secrets. Luna directed him to stand in a certain spot which looked to him just like any other section of the underground passage. Then, as she whispered a last farewell, Luna pressed a hidden button, and Malcolm felt himself pushed upwards by a column of air back to the surface. Within moments, he was standing next to the rock where his adventure had begun. Malcolm casually strolled out to rejoin the others. During the rest of their time on the moon, Malcolm worked hard not to divulge what he knew of the stunning world beneath the surface. When he noticed rocks near Music Village, Malcolm wondered if they were really moon families in camouflage. But the hardest part was how much he missed his new friend. Heart-stricken and a little lonely, Malcolm spent much time deep in thought. Finally, the day of the return trip to Earth arrived. With everyone strapped into their seats, all was set to launch back into orbit. As they lifted off, Malcolm was surprised how quickly the moon began to recede into the blackness of space. He felt the absence of his lunar friend, but smiled at the thought that she was safely back with her people. Before long, the 6-hour supersonic trip was over, and they found themselves touching down on Earth. On their first night back at the farm, the worship leaders sat outside enjoying the night air. They saw the full moon shining bright in the reflected light of the hidden sun, and they spoke about their time there and how the new perspective had filled them with a greater awe of the Creator of the universe. They marveled at the new songs spilling out of them and the new lyrics coming from their lips, all to better worship God. Malcolm knew that seeing God's vast and awesome creation from so far away would instill humility into them, just as it did for the Moon People. Malcolm looked around at the assembly and asked them what they thought the true nature of worship was, and how the trip to the moon might have shaped it. As the others fell into a heartfelt discussion on the topic, he leaned back and smiled.